I started playing games in 2003, which, depending on who you ask, either makes me a gaming veteran or someone who showed up late to the party. But honestly, I think I may have arrived at just the right time. I grew up on the original Xbox, not through digital downloads, cloud streaming, or subscription services. No, none of that. Physical disc. And not just any disc, a disc that contained two games. One side had Sega GT 2002, the other had Jet Set Radio Future. Now, Sega GT was great, but Jet Set Radio Future, that game completely changed how I looked at video games. Jet Set Radio Future was ridiculous on paper. A group of teenagers on futuristic rollerblades racing through a stylized version of Japan while spray painting entire city blocks. It sounds absurd, but underneath that colorful art style was a story about government control, personal freedom, rebellion, identity, and standing up against authority. It was weird. It was stylish. And most importantly, it felt like somebody genuinely cared about making it. Every mechanic, every character design, every soundtrack choice felt intentional.
Like this, like that, like this, like that, like this, like that, like this, like that.
There was passion behind it. And that really got me wondering, what happened to games like that? What happened to the games that were willing to take all the risks? The games that weren't designed around engagement metrics, battle passes, or storefronts? How did we go from games that felt handcrafted to games that sometimes feel manufactured? Today, I want to look at what changed in game development over the last 10 to 15 years, how that change is affecting the games that we play, and why so many players feel like something is missing. One thing is undeniable. The gaming industry has exploded. Modern games are bigger than they've ever been. Bigger worlds, bigger budgets, bigger teams, and most of all, bigger expectations. Back in the early 2000s, a large development team might have consisted of fewer than 100 developers. Those developers often worked together in the same building. Writers sat near designers, designers sat near artists, artists sat near animators. Communication was almost immediate. If the animation team needed clarification on a mechanic, they could literally walk down the hallway and ask. Problems were solved quickly. Everyone shared the same vision. Imagine having 100 people for the entire studio, every department, every division, getting the same meeting, getting the same vision from whatever director you have at the time. Whereas nowadays, you have 500 to 1,000 people working on a game, and they're all segmented across different studios. There's no way that the vision is the same across all of that. The meeting, becomes an email. The email becomes a review process. The review process becomes a 2-week wait for approval. And before you know it, a single design decision takes months. Now, don't get me wrong, modern games are technological miracles. But larger teams create new problems. When work becomes heavily segmented, it's easier for a game to feel disconnected. Systems don't always work together naturally. Features feel unfinished. Ideas get diluted. And development times stretch further and further into the future. We're reaching a point where entire television series begin and end before some AAA games even release. That's not necessarily because developers are lazy. It's because development has become incredibly complicated. Sometimes too complicated. But complexity isn't the entire story. Money plays a massive role too. Games today cost more than ever to make. Budgets can reach hundreds of millions of dollars. And when that much money is involved, risk becomes terrifying. The result? Publishers become obsessed with predictability. And they keep asking questions like, can this game sell cosmetics? Can it support seasons? Can this game keep players engaged for years? Can this game generate reoccurring revenue? And suddenly, when this happens, the discussion isn't about making the best game or the best experience possible. It's about making the safest investment possible. That's where many players feel the industry started changing, because passion projects are risky. Innovation is risky. Original ideas are risky, but battle passes, microtransactions, established franchises, those are considered safer bets, at least on paper. If I had to point to one moment that symbolized this shift, it would be the release of Grand Theft Auto 5 in 2013. Not because GTA was bad, far from it. It was one of the most successful games ever made, still to this day. The problem is that its success changed expectations. Publishers saw a game that could generate revenue for over a decade, and suddenly everyone wanted their own forever game. The goal stopped being making a great experience and became keep players spending. Now, let's be fair. Amazing games do still exist. Since 2013, we've seen incredible titles like The Witcher 3, Breath of the Wild, Red Dead Redemption 2, Elden Ring, Cyberpunk 2077, Baldur's Gate 3, and Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Games that remind players why they fell in love with gaming in the first place. Games with incredibly strong artistic vision, strong storytelling, strong identity, and games that felt like they had something to say. The problem isn't that good games don't exist anymore. The problem is that they feel increasingly rare. Now let's take a look at some examples, shall we? Not because these games failed, but because they reveal what happens when priorities become misplaced. Fallout 76. When Fallout 76 launched, many players felt like Bethesda had just abandoned what made Fallout special. Instead of focusing on storytelling and world building, attention seemed to shift towards live service mechanics and monetization. The result? A game that felt disconnected from the identity of its own franchise. Then you have Star Wars Battlefront 2. Battlefront 2 became one of the most infamous examples of aggressive monetization. The controversy wasn't just about spending money, it was about progression itself feeling monetized. Players felt like core parts of the experience were being locked behind systems designed to encourage purchases, and the backlash was enormous. Then you have Call of Duty. Call of Duty might be the clearest example. Many players remember the campaigns from COD 4 through Black Ops 2. Whether you loved them, hated them, those stories resonated. Characters felt memorable. Moments felt iconic. Today, the focus often feels centered around seasonal content, bundles, and player retention systems. The campaign has become secondary to the live service machine. Redfall. Then there's Redfall, a game that launched to such widespread disappointment that it became a symbol of everything players fear about modern AAA development. A project that felt unfinished, directionless, and lacking a clear identity.
Holy fuck, this is awesome!
Here's the thing. I don't think gaming is dying. And I don't think developers suddenly forgot how to make incredible games. In fact, some of the most talented developers in history are working right now. The problem isn't talent. The problem is priorities. When every project has to maximize engagement, monetization, retention, and quarterly growth, passion often gets pushed to the side, and players can feel that. We notice when a game is made by people with something to say. We notice when a world feels handcrafted. We notice when a story sticks with us years after we finished it, because that's what made so many of these older games special. Not better graphics, not bigger maps, not larger budgets. Passion. The same passion that made a kid pick up a random Xbox disc in 2003 and discover a game he'd still be talking about decades later.